To Brian.
Are we live on YouTube?
Yep.
Holy cow. Live on YouTube. Here we go. And let me get navigated over there. I probably need to stop Slack because all these alerts are going to come through and people get irritated. I have gotten so many emails on Ryan. There's all these alerts from Slack coming through, and so I have to be careful with that. But we are live. Hi, sorry, Stephanie. What?
I heard one the moment you hit. Yeah.
Send me an email about it. I love that.
It was me. I was testing it. I was slacking him.
So we are back though, Todd. Craft Brewed Agile. We've brought Agile Socks, Stephanie Ockerman on. We're going to check into the beers, but I want to hear that story too, because I don't think I've ever gotten the whole Agile Socks, Stephanie kind of connection. But first things first, we have to jump into the beers, right? We have to, because this is our time box. The cup is the time box. And so we'll see where we're at. But tonight or today, depending on where you're at, I had a special delivery from one of our good friends, Eric Weber. He airdropped many 4-packs on my front porch from the Gathering Place out of Wisconsin. So Eric, you're awesome. I am drinking King's Alley from the Gathering Place. It's an alt beer, 5% alcohol. It is so wonderful. So Gathering Place in Wisconsin, order beer from them. They'll ship it right to your door. I'm loving this stuff. So it's the King's Alley. Stephanie, what are you rocking tonight?
Well, I'm sort of making my own rules with your time box. So I'm drinking 2 beers in mini glasses.
Hey, it worked.
I'm having a beer tasting.
Excellent.
Sweet.
Because I honestly, I mean, you can't do that at home unless you just make it up, right? So I'm making it up. And I'm drinking Seventh Son. So I'm an IPA fan. The Scientist is an amazing, like typical West Coast style IPA. And then I'm also drinking their double IPA, which has even cooler label, called Proliferous. So yeah, this is also a, just say it's a self-care mechanism. I feel like when you put your beer into tiny glasses, you drink less beer overall. I don't know, like I'm like,
I feel like I always drink it faster though, because it's like, it's like a beer shot. And
yeah. Well, I'm experimenting to see if I can drink less with this new method.
Very good.
Although I've already opened 2 beers.
I would say the science is still out.
Yeah.
But the Seventh Son Brewing is just an amazing brewery in Columbus. I have no idea if you can actually get it mailed, but they're doing local delivery, which is pretty sweet.
Cool. No, hey, we got to support local, right? So Columbus brews, and actually your craft brewed beer scene is just insane. Like
we have amazing beer here. Yeah. And so when the pandemic started, I had a delivery as well from the beer you're drinking. Yeah.
So, but that's all gone, right?
Oh, it's not last very long.
No, Eric's awesome. He's been shipping a lot of PSTs, some great beer from the Gathering Place, and so we appreciate that. Todd, what nastiness have what nasty?
I'm well known, Stephanie, for my bizarre beers. I drank a strawberry milkshake IPA on this one time. Today, I'm going to do a beer called Citra Cutting Tiles. It's a double IPA made by Trillium. So this Trillium is in Boston. They make if you like IPAs, I don't know if you've had Trillium yet, Stephanie. They make what I consider to be some of the best IPAs in the country. So I'm pretty stoked about this. My cousin sent me a care package down he lives in Billerica. It comes in at 8.5%.
When you were in Boston and I was in Boston, and you had a duffel bag full of beer. Do you remember that?
No, that doesn't sound like me. That doesn't sound like me at all, Stephanie. Stop lying. Was at the time. It was weird. My home airport's BWI, and I was like going to get in line at BWI, and I'm like, Stephanie, and she's like, what's up, Todd? And I'm like, this is really weird. Why are you in my airport? And she's like, yeah, that was like, was going through my head.
There were actually 2 instances. So the time you're talking about was like a total random, like we passed through airports on the way to Boston.
Yeah.
And we're on the same flight. And then, but the second time though, was we were at scrum.org for an event, and you had, I think, maybe like driven somewhere, or like you had gotten beer at some special brewery that you loved or really wanted to try, and that was like literally what was on what you were checking, a duffel bag of beer.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think we might have shared like a lift to the airport.
That's right.
And I will always remember, and I was just like, why have I never thought of this before?
Brilliant. It really is.
Yeah, I bring like a couple extra, like, no, a couple less pairs of clothing. I just rock one pair of jeans for a week so I could throw a duffel bag in and get beer home. Right?
You opened my world.
Yeah. I was visiting Todd. We did a book thing in New York, and then we went into where we go, York. We went from New York. We took the train into Pennsylvania. I was flying out of Lancaster. Where did I fly out of? Harrisburg. And he sends me home with like how many cases of beer that I've tried to sneak into a bag and get home. And it's just like, yeah, it's your thing, Todd.
It is my thing. I guess you could call me like a beer mule. I don't know.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah. You can, by the way, for anybody listening, you can get 2 cases if you check them very easily, and go Southwest because you can check 2 bags for free.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So just bring an extra bag. Do you have a beer bag, Todd?
I do. Yeah. You know who else? Who else is really good at this topic is Rich Vistowski.
Yep.
Because Rich drove. I met Rich in Milwaukee, and he drove me an hour and 45 minutes south of Midway, where I was flying out of, to take me to this brewery. And he brought all this equipment to wrap my beers in, and I'm like. I was like, dude, I was just going to jam them in there and throw some dirty clothes on them. And he's like, no, you got to wrap it like this. I'm like, holy cow, like he's better than me.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Miller, the game was upped.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, it's awesome you're joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
I've always had a question I've wanted to ask you. So for those of you who don't know, Stephanie is currently or rolling off of as one of the stewards for the professional Scrum Master class at scrum.org. She's in that transition phase, I think, where she spent the last 2 or 3 years in that role. So basically, if you are taking a class from a PST, from a professional Scrum trainer with scrum.org, and you're sitting in the PSM course, you're probably working with or meeting a trainer who has in some way been taught or influenced by Stephanie. So there's this huge impact that she's had on the community. She's been writing a lot of the course updates with Simon Reindl, who was on last week. And so huge name in our community, and she runs a great consulting business and training business on her own, and she named it Agile Socks. And I've always wanted to know, like,
I have too. I get your emails and I see it, and I have the same curiosity as Ryan. So like, I'm so stoked to hear about it.
Well, I don't know if the story is going to be exciting enough, but I'll go ahead and tell you. Like most things I do, I just kind of roll with it, like figure things out along the way. And when I decided to go independent and start my company, like, of course, the first thing you're thinking about is like, what's the name? What's my website domain I'm going to buy? And I knew I needed like something related to agility, Scrum, just because I wanted people to understand like what my focus was. And I also didn't want like I really hope I don't offend anyone here, but I'll go ahead and say it anyways. I didn't want like the business buzzword bingo game,
right.
Where you just like have a whole bunch of like really fancy sounding words like jammed around the word Agile. I wanted something sort of like funny, playful, a little weird, like just any of those things. And I, for some reason, remembered this time when a coworker of mine, we were just at like a work event, and he was like, "Hey, socks." And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, he just called me Socks. Well, so my last name is Ockerman. And so even though that's a really hard name to pronounce, for some reason, people have called me Ockerman a lot in my life. Like, they'll just call me by my last name. And if you join a company, what's the short name you get? First and last name. So Soccerman. And so like some people like started calling me Soccerman and they thought it was funny because, okay, it sounds kind of funny. Soccerman. And this one guy like was like, oh, hey, socks. Like he shortened it again. Like it was like lengthened and then shortened. And I guess one of my coworkers said to him, she really likes to be called Socks. And so it's just this like silly little thing. It only happened once. And for some reason in my brain, I remembered that and was like, Agile Socks. Like, like, what if I just, let's just put those words together. Nobody knows what it means. It's personal because it's a play on my name. It's memorable because it's weird. And I can make up a whole lot of stories about what it has to do with like, you need the right type of socks for the right type of thing you're doing. Like if you're hiking, if you're running, I don't know. Like I can make a whole bunch of random stuff.
I wear my blue socks on every sprint review.
That's right.
Like I could actually brand socks now. Like, the sky is the limit with this name. But honestly, like I said to myself, I can totally change my company name later. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to go with Agile Socks. And then like people would start calling me Agile Socks, like just referring to me that way. And I was like, yeah, this is stuck. This isn't.
I like it.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, every person who takes a class though should be walking out the door with a pair of socks, right?
I know. I need to get on that, right?
I would wear them. I mean,
yeah. Let us know when you do that because Ryan and I want to come sit in the class so we can get a pair of Agile socks.
So I do get spam frequently from companies trying to sell me like customized socks, like for real. Like I get spam thinking I'm a sock making company.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's always a fallback if we're not allowed to meet in face-to-face kind of classes anymore, right?
That's true.
Gotta back up.
Learn to knit.
You can knit socks.
Yeah, this is so much better.
Yeah. I've got 12 orders and I just got one finished after 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's pretty much how long it would probably take me.
Nice.
I actually thought, so you and I've talked quite a bit. You're a big traveler.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I somehow interpreted it. This is great to know because I somehow interpreted it because that it had to represent how much you like to travel. Yeah.
I mean, it could. That's the thing. You can read anything into it, right? It's kind of random.
So you are also, as Todd mentioned, a big traveler. You actually have a travel blog, right? The Travel Chica.
I do, but I haven't updated it in a really long time, and I've been bad about it since I actually started my own business.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have a travel blog, The Travel Chica.
So if you could go anywhere in the world, then. So I always ask people who are like these prolific travelers, if you could take one last trip, where's that ticket? Where's that flight going? Uh-oh.
That's a really hard question.
Where's your heart at?
So like, all right, so I'll cheat and I'll be like, I'm going to fly to South America and then I'll travel all around South America again. Cause I've been to South America, but like I love South America and there's so much I didn't see when I was there. So I would take my flight to probably like Argentina and then like take buses and, travel around. That'd be my cheating answer.
Okay. If
I like literally only had, like, I got to go one place.
Hold on a minute. Let me check in with the producers.
Okay.
Nope. You're allowed to just say South. We have it. Yes. You're good. Hold on. Wait. Yeah, that's an okay answer.
I'm getting a mixed signal because Bob he's telling me that he needs more specificity. And I said that wrong. Yeah.
Let's take it up to the booth.
Yeah.
No, we're good.
We'd like an instant replay.
What time did you guys start?
Just when this started.
We miss sports so badly.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I get it now.
It's pretty bad when like, we're like, hey, the NFL draft is on. Maybe we should drink and get excited. It's like, it's the draft. But we're still like, yeah, that's a great pick. Woohoo! And it's Oh my God, it's so bad.
I have enjoyed the sportscasters like making the funny videos online of like sportscasting, like
a
child playing in the playground.
Like there's that video of little Johnny getting tackled. It's oh my God. He's dead.
Yeah, I have to say I have been very appreciative of the level of creativity and humor that like people are sort of like tapping into. You know, and it's very like personal for them too. Usually it's like something that's deeply important to them, and they're finding ways to, I don't know, like create from that.
Yeah, and I feel like I mean, I'm usually a pretty big fan of memes. There's a lot of funny memes out there, but I'll tell you, I get like 10 a day. And every single one of them makes me like crack up. Like there are some really funny memes going, most of which we can't share in this forum. Maybe when we're not live on YouTube, I can share some of them. But
we should show at least one good one on screen.
Okay, well,
we'll find a good one.
Challenge accepted. No, it declined.
Hold on, wait a minute. Let's go to the booth. No, we can't show that. Sorry. I'm enjoying. So this is where like, oh yeah, these, you know, the three supposed thought leaders, whatever they call us. And then we end up talking about Tiger King and everyone gets upset, or some Tiger King meme pops up and I start giggling and I'm like, I should not be laughing at this, but I do. Have you watched this yet, Stephanie?
Of course I have. Oh my God.
Finally, we could talk to someone about this.
Oh my gosh.
I think I might have watched it all in a night. 2 nights maximum.
All right, first question. Did Carol Baskin kill her husband?
I think she was involved. The meat grinder thing is just like absurd.
Pretty wild, right?
That's too much work.
Allegedly, we should say allegedly. Did she allegedly do that?
You've made Ryan's day. I'm just letting you know that right now, Stephanie.
Do you have a different opinion?
Oh no.
Oh no, absolutely not. Ryan and I have had many conversations. She's totally did it. I don't even think I think she did it.
She allegedly did it.
No. Not according to Netflix.
No, and that's the kind of silliness that we've been watching. Because there's no sports. Like, I really think that show took off because we can't watch baseball.
And it's just unbelievable. Like,
it really is.
Like, what?
Well, and then of course, on like episode 3, they introduce a guy from Indiana, of all places, who's involved in all this. And I'm like, all right, Hoosiers, way to represent. So excited to live here now. Come on. But it's Southern Indiana. So it's
okay.
A little different.
Yeah.
Such a good show.
Have you guys watched Ozark? Are you guys Ozark people?
No, I haven't, but I'm hearing about it.
Yeah, so like I was kind of I thought the first season was okay. The second season was really dark and it like made me depressed just like watching. I couldn't watch more than like an episode because I just like, I don't know.
Tell me more.
Yeah, the third season was really good, except for like the dreams I had from it. Like I'd wake up and I'd be like, Jess, did we launder the money? And she's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, from the car. I'm like, from the cartel. I'm like, oh wait, never mind. Just having a dream about laundering money. Anyway, watching, I don't launder money. It's watch Ozark.
God, it's honestly amazing to me that our wives don't just smother us in the middle of the night.
I know.
I have had to actually cut out certain television shows because like I like this level of stress and the level of like really like screwed up dreams that you can have in this situation. Like I had to stop watching The Walking Dead. I literally couldn't handle it. I was like, nope. And it wasn't like the whole like zombies, like people dying. It was that they were like, it's more the human stories at this level where they're like killing off your favorite people. And you're like, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
Well, Chris and I, so my wife her name's Kristen, call her Chris. So if I say Chris and I, I'm talking about my wife. We were huge Walking Dead fans. And then we had this realization after watching a particular episode that the zombies are not the villains, like the people. And we just had to stop. We just were like, this is it's really, really bad stuff. But we loved the show. I'm kind of glad we stopped kind of hearing some of the things that have happened since then. But yeah, that's not a show that I would watch during a pandemic, to be sure. I'm like,
I actually watched the movie Contagion last week.
That's brave.
I couldn't watch it the first few weeks of all this, and then I finally was like in a place where and I kept hearing it's really good, and that it's very much actually like the stuff happening in our world right now is like in the movie. And so I was finally in a place where I was like, I think I can do this. Like, I can watch this movie. It was actually really good. And like 8,000 stars are in it. Like every famous person you could think of is somehow in this one movie. And it is actually bizarre how much it is mirroring our, like, what's happening now. Like terminology is even the same. Like the term social distancing is in the movie.
That's probably where they stole it from. Hey, let's just use that.
Well, I kind of hope, I actually wish some people might watch this film and we might actually get ahead of this at some point. I don't know.
It'd be nice, right? All right, what do they do in Contagion? All right, that should be the plan.
Yeah.
That's right. Maybe that's what's happening.
I know. No,
it's not. Like, we should have done that.
Okay, I'm gonna watch it now, and then I'm not gonna take this show political, but I might lobby for Contagion.
send a tweet. He might see it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, considering how much influence I have in the government,
there is like this undertone of pandemic going on, and so when this is watched, hopefully like 2 or 3 years from now, people are like, what pandemic or COVID, what? And I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping we're not still sheltering in place. And
oh, well, yeah, I hope that's going to be true. I have to believe that's true, but I do believe this is like the defining moment for, I mean, everything's going to be different going forward.
Has to be. And so that's actually it's the first time I think in my lifetime where I can say true complexity is blatant. Like it's always like this implied thing that life is complex, but we can put these structures in place that make our lives look kind of neat and compact and organized. And well, I have this itinerary and I have this flight and I have this hotel reservation. I'm teaching this class and it's all, and then I send the invoice and I get paid and I get home and my wife's, she's got the kids squared away and the financials that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. And so Stephanie, what I've always liked about you is that you've got this amazing coaching stance. And it's like a powerful stance. It's like, I'm going to take this situation, I'm going to grab it by its ears. I'm going to make sure that this goes exactly the way I need it to. Or I'm going to do all the steps I need. Like, it's always this powerful approach. And I'm wondering, like, for people listening or that are dealing with the pandemic, or they're trying to like get their brains straight, like, what are you doing? Like, how do you approach this? Like, I'm sure the bad thoughts creep in, and how do you kind of push those out? And it's almost like the self-help or the coping. Like, what have you found? Because you have such a powerful stance, and I think it could really help people.
Yeah, well, it's hard. Like just to start there, like, I don't have a lot of the stressors I think that a lot of people do like now, and it's still really, really hard. I have like moments of grief and fear and anxiety and worry and like just outrage and anger and all the things. So I think the most important thing for me has been accepting all of that and like letting myself be with emotion and like really feel it, let it pass through me. You know this for sure about me, Ryan, but I think a lot of people who know me know my emotions like are pretty strong, and like they like kind of like all pass through me like in tears. Like I can cry watching some beautiful thing that brings me joy, or I can cry out of like sheer rage. So like if you see me crying, like I don't know if you should be afraid or happy. I don't know. Just a warning. But yeah, like I'm letting myself do that. Like I'm letting myself just feel what's happening, and not being like, oh, I need to work on my new online course for 4 hours today. It's like, do I really? Like, I'm not feeling it. And so like, maybe I need a little self-care. So that's just like the first and foremost is like, don't push down the feelings. Don't push away necessarily the bad thoughts. But you also don't want to like be spinning on like potential like worries and assumptions and like bad stuff, right? Like that crops in too. And I think the biggest thing for me is like coming back to like it's coming back to complexity, right? Like this idea that we can't predict the future, but what we can do is we can make choices. Like we are going to be resilient and responsive when something new presents. And I ask myself a lot of times, do I even need to make a choice right now? Like, or do I just need to sit and wait for more information? And so it's kind of leveraging a lot of what we teach in Scrum and what we do when we work with Scrum teams is it's like, what's the information I have? And is it the right time? Or is this like a take a step and see what happens? So those have been like my two kind of go-to, like in the moment, let myself be with emotions, and then also don't feel overwhelmed by trying to predict the future and make big choices. Right. Think about the timing of it. Yeah, and like for you guys, like how do those things land for you? Like are those things that you've been doing?
So it's been like super interesting to hear you say that, because I'm just getting some like thought and like my perspective, right? Like I don't like, I'm such a snappy decision maker. Like someone would be like, hey,
wait. Some would say impulsive.
Impulsive, yes.
Okay.
Like example, right? Like my buddy will call like on a Saturday morning and be like, hey, do you feel like skydiving? And I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. And no consideration for the fact that I've got a 9 and an 11-year-old, it's just like, or do you want to do, hey, do you feel like writing a book? Yep. Cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Hey, that hits a little close there, but
right. Like, so I feel like I feel like I was thinking about that, and like I keep thinking, I've made a lot of like impulsive decisions I've regretted. I just don't like, and I've told myself that I hear that a lot from the lady sitting next to here can hear me talking. So I gotta whisper. It's gotta slow down sometimes. But I think that's interesting to think about with this situation, because like I've actually not been that impulsive. I'm more relaxed now than I normally am, and I think it's because I'm home. Nobody's sick, right? Luckily, nobody that I really know all that well has been hurt that bad by this. Some financial problems and things like that, but people will get by with that, I think. Friends are always helpful in that regard, but
yeah, gratitude is really I think has been another really important tool for me too, like recognizing like everything that I don't want to say I took it for granted before, but I'm just like so much more like it's just blaring lights, like how much I have to be grateful for.
Yeah.
It's a weird situation, right? Like so I haven't talked about this very much. I have an issue with my lung, right? That I have to have I'm grateful that I get to have an outpatient procedure to get it fixed. And hopefully that happens, I think, next Friday. But running up to that, my kids are very much aware, like they've seen too much of the news where, well, if you have an underlying condition, COVID-19 will just take you out. Right. That's the kind of stuff that's really gotten me. Like, I'm not myself too worried. Cause I mean, we're incredibly privileged, right? We have plenty of money. We can shelter at home. We don't have to travel too much. We can work online. And so those aspects are fine, but it's really trying to keep the kids, not panicked and stressed. Cause I think the impacts going forward will be on our children are going to be immense. Like this is just such a stressful situation. Like when your 4-year-old daughter comes up to you and says, "Daddy, are you going to die?" It's like, ugh. And it's like, well, eventually, yes. But I'm hoping that it's well after you're a very old woman with your own family, and that we've had a blast with your kids and, all those great things, and that you've had a wonderful career and we've had such a blast over the next, 40, 50 years, that it'll be fine. And she's like, okay. But my boys are older. And they're like, well, Dad, this could really hurt you. And I'm like, I agree. But, guys, I think the thing that's helped me, and I don't want to take this go too far with this, but it's actually time in scripture and faith that's really kept me centered on what's important. On whether, I don't know where your backgrounds are, but for me, it's like, this is a blink in time. There's an eternity to consider. And so I've really been working with the kids on, regardless of what happens, good prevails, and your mom's really smart. and really trying to talk through that. But really just having those conversations lately has been immensely stressful, especially on the kids, because they know like, all right, if we get sick, this could really hurt dad. But once that surgery happens, I'm fine. I'm clear of it. It's good. But it's been that kind of stuff. But otherwise, like the business and the work and we've adapted. Like we're teaching, we've been able to figure that out, and we're finding ways to enjoy it. But it's just some of the watching the kids, watching a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old have stress has been one of the more difficult aspects of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Although our sons have found each other on
Yes.
Fortnite.
They're coping through shooting each other on Fortnite.
Yeah. I hooked my son up with Ryan's sons, and I can actually hear my son right now yelling at the top of his lungs.
I think he's yelling at Holden.
He's probably yelling at each other.
I can hear Holden.
We can't stop it. Ryan and I talked about this, and I'm like, at what point do you just like, what battles do you want to fight, right? Like,
let them be kids, like, because it is
kids, but like all of my friends do, and like, you know, all my colleagues and people that I'm really close to have children, and so like I hear a lot of what you're talking about to some degree, like the challenges, you know, of like how if your children coping with such levels of stress and anxiety, and you know, you throw in like children who, you know, maybe have like, you know, social challenges, and it's like, well, crap, homeschooling doesn't help them with that, you know, and it's like, what, you know, so there can be worries about like what is going to happen from this. Yeah. And I'm also really lucky right now to be in a leadership program. I'm in Coactive's 10-month leadership program, maybe 2 years now. I don't know how long it's going to take to get through it since I'm halfway through.
Face-to-face components that might be tricky right now.
We had 2 more retreats left, and then now like no travel for several months. So it's going to be a longer than 10-month program, but honestly, it's a huge gift in this to be like with people who are able to like really like help you work on your own personal leadership, but also demonstrate leadership themselves. And a lot of them are parents, and like people just keep saying, you know, it's like you're not working from home. You're trying to navigate a pandemic, a worldwide crisis, and parent and get your work done on time. Like nobody's just working from home, you know? And I think everybody needs to just like just give themselves the grace in knowing that like, it's just love your kids and do your best. You know, I think a lot of the coaching concepts are really helpful. And what you were talking about, Ryan, like you basically, it's like one of the components that I talk about that I teach with coaching is like align to what's important to you. And so, you know, you have ways of doing that and that align with your family. And so I think that's a good place to go, is like just connecting with like, well, what is important to me? And like, what are my values? What are my beliefs? What am I willing to take a stand for? And show up and aligned with that, right? And make your choices or don't make choices, whatever is the right thing at the time. But like, if you're aligned to that, you know, like that's gonna feel better, even when it's hard, even when there's emotions that are difficult to be with. Like, at least you know you're aligned with what's important to you.
Yeah, it's made all the difference. And and with the kids, it's definitely led to a calmer kind of outlook. It's and so it's been nice. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we're not getting Parent of the Year awards this year. There's way too much time on screens. There's way too much time. Sorry?
Screens. I think every parent deserves like a medal this year. I mean, for real, screen time isn't the thing that's gonna like be the thing that defines your child right now. What's gonna define your child is like you being there for them and modeling, right? Like that it's okay to be having emotions. It's, you know, and then here's how we align to what's important to us. And
naps.
I'm gonna give you a medal, man. Both of you.
All right.
Medals this year.
So. You know, this really reminds me, this whole conversation. Have either of you seen the documentary 180 Degrees South?
No.
You have put it on the top of your watch list. So there's this moment. It's about a guy that's a free climber, and he climbs Patagonia, and So the interesting thing about this is like, I feel like this moment in this documentary, this guy, he kind of quit climbing, and he had a normal job. He had a really good girlfriend. He had an apartment. He was doing, what everybody's supposed to do, being, doing well for himself. Let's get into management, right? Because we all really love that. And so he decided that he would go on one last adventure, and somebody hooked him up with a guy that was taking a sailboat down to Patagonia. And you see him on the phone. They're filming him on the phone, and his employer is basically saying, if you don't come back, you don't have a job. And then his next call is with his like fiance, and she's like, if you don't come back, this is over. And he was like, the next picture is him getting on the sailboat and going down to climb Patagonia, because he was doing what he loved to do. And it was like, I always remember that moment in that documentary because of how inspiring it was, right? The guy loved to climb, and he was not going to let anything get in his way, right? Like, he just did it. So I think that's a good lesson for everybody, right?
I think that kind of shows that like life isn't easy and clean, and it's like that hurt people. It hurt him, it hurt other people, and it was probably a really hard decision and painful potentially, I would imagine, but at the same time he was aligned with like what he knew he wanted and what was important to him.
Yeah,
I think that we've come back to that again, and I think it's so important, like sitting down and really considering, what do you believe, what's actually important, right? How do you want to intentionally show up? It's like all the things we know we should do.
Brian, have you taken a course that might talk about some of those things?
I might have. I mean, which course are you referring to, Agile Socks? So
Grow.
What's that?
Scrum Master Grow.
Scrum Master Grow. So this is Stephanie's course, and it's wonderful, right? So it's
so I'm curious, like you're using the language that I use, and I was curious if that was intentional or if it's just like kind of like the way you think now.
It's the way that so what's interesting is your materials reinforced, and I didn't have all of it figured out. Like you definitely like have filled in. Well, I mean, we've talked about this, like even learning how to become a trainer, you filled in a lot of gaps that I had as far as like presence and teaching, and so this is not a new concept. Like you've been kind of teaching and coaching me for years, whether you know it or not. But your coaching course has helped me. Like there's things that we intuitively do, but then can you explain it? And do you know why you're doing it? And and a lot of it was new. So I'm like, oh, this makes total sense, and I should adapt and embrace this. And some of it was just reaffirming, like, all right, that makes sense, and that's what this is called. But yeah, I think that the language is important, right? It's a really great course. I mean, we'll throw a link on YouTube for people to check it out. But if you want to show up in a powerful way, aligned with your values, fully aware and intentful about what you believe and the way that your principles and values work, I can't think of a better way to first explore and discover that, but then come up with a plan to actually do that. And I think people skip over that. They skip over the explore and discover, and they go straight to do. And I think you spend a lot of time in that space just being uncomfortable with the fact that I don't know who I am. I don't know what I believe. I don't know the principles that I'm really trying to follow. And the way that you force people, not force, but you provoke like that kind of panic moment, and then that discovery, super, super powerful.
Wow. I love that means so much to me. I know that it's been a while since you looked at that, and
yeah.
It is actually a course that's designed to be something you can revisit. And so I've actually been thinking about like literally retaking my own course again, because when you experience rapid change, right? Like the world has just shifted, and like everything you thought was important, like you're kind of starting to question, like, well, was that really important, right? And it's good to realign on those things. And I think that's the thing, like I learn through like breaking these concepts down and like finding like, oh, well, this is totally related to this. We might use different words, but the concepts are similar and we can integrate them. And I love doing that work and like trying to figure out, how do I explain this? Like like, how do I explain the experiences I've had doing this work, and how do I put these concepts together in a way that like are actionable for other people? And so that just made my day. And yeah, like I think I'm going to start my course again on Monday.
You know,
I feel like I need to start that course.
Todd needs this course, but things that are important, like, and that just kind of that just hit me really, really powerfully. Like my family on my wife's side, it's super tight. Like this is a group, so I'm not a hugger. I've had to learn how to become a hugger. Like I'm working on it, but these people, like the first day, like she brought me home to have dinner with her mom and her stepdad, and it's just like, hey, and it's like I'm like, whoa, and trying to. But now it's such a tight knit group of people. Like we used to have dinner every Sunday, right? The family would get together and the kids would play and they'd see their cousins, they'd see their aunts, they'd see their grandparents, you know, 20, 30 people, and a bunch of people who have kind of been adopted into our family. And we haven't done that in like 2 months. And I used to kind of like, oh, we have to go do this. And not always, but sometimes it would just be like, oh, I'm really busy, or I have a trip coming up, or I'm going to be a few hours late because I have to take a call. I will never do that again. That is important. Like that is like the most important thing we do in a week is get the family together, break bread, check on each other, care about I mean, that's just, and it's that kind of stuff that we're kind of learning throughout this as well.
Brian, I just can't help but think about all the total awkward bro hugs that we've had in the past.
I know.
I'm like the worst hugger. Yeah. Oh, like I've been before where someone's trying to hug me and I like go in like this.
Yeah. Like, I hug. Elbow bump. Now we have an excuse, Todd. Now we can just be like, hey, elbow bump. Dr. Fauci elbow bump.
Oh, geez.
No, we're just going to put on full body suits and like hug it out.
Next time I see you, Steph, I'm going to hug you. So I hopefully we don't have COVID.
I'm a huge hugger. And so like, I live alone and we can't touch people. So I'm just like, oh my, like physicality of like showing how much like you care about people and you love them. It's like, it's so hard to like just do the Zoom girls' night with my friends. And I did though, like, okay, so what you said, Ryan, really resonated because I actually distinctly remember right before all this happened, I had, like I was trying to schedule lunch with my grandma and my cousin. They live about an hour, 20-minute drive from here, so it's not too far. But I was like really stressed at the time. You know, I was like had a class coming up probably that I was preparing for. And I had started working on my coaching skills course. Like I had to like film the videos for that and had to get the scripts ready. It was like, oh, like, I don't really know if I have time. And I remember thinking about canceling and like moving it to another weekend. And I didn't. We did it, and it was, you know, we had a great time. And it wasn't that much time. It was, you know, like a 4-hour total thing. And now like I am like, oh my God, if I had canceled that, like if I had rescheduled that, and that was like a whole another month or 6 weeks probably that I wouldn't have seen my grandma, like I would have just felt like a biggest jackass.
Yeah.
And I have taught my grandma, who's 85 years old, how to use Zoom.
Nice.
I deserve a medal for this.
We will find you a medal. This is amazing.
Trying to respond to that with a Zoom reaction. I just clapped.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, I know. I thought that'd be fun to do. Ryan just
I just learned that was a feature like a week ago.
Me too. I actually just learned it today when someone in Ryan and I's class did it, and I was like, how they do that? And then I like had to like Googled it quick.
You're like, oh yeah. But so I've been doing Zoom calls with my grandma, and it's been fantastic.
That's awesome.
But it's not the same, you know what I mean? Of course you know what I mean. It's great, and I'm glad we're staying connected that way. But yeah, it's not the same.
No, I definitely feel very fortunate to be under quarantine with my wife and kids. Like we like the boys and I, we play games and we have a good time. My daughter, every day around 2 p.m., she's like, nap time, Dad? And I'm like, sure. Let's go take a 30-minute nap. So actually I woke up from that and then came and did this show with you guys. And of course, you know, having a wife where like we've built a gym in our garage, and so we're able to lift together and still stay somewhat active and still, you know, do things together. And it's you do deserve a medal, Stephanie. I can't imagine the solitude, but I'd also imagine at some points maybe the quiet is kind of nice too.
So I am an introvert, and I'm an outgoing introvert. So for people who've met me, you might be like, what? But I love alone time. And since I teach, like I hibernate for like 3 to 4 days after I teach a class. Like I love
I'm pounding you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be away from people.
Yeah.
So I'm actually really fine being alone, like the alone time and the quiet, and like I love my house and I love my space, and I don't have to deal with like, you know, who left the dish out and, you know, like any of that. I don't have to homeschool any children, right? Like I'm super grateful for a lot of those things. But yeah, like it is a little bit like, I was thinking about it. Has it been 7 weeks, 8 weeks? I don't know. It could have been like 487 weeks at this point that I've really like not like touched another human, you know, and like haven't really been face to face with many people I know, except for my neighbor, who's amazing and probably the only reason I am not completely insane right now.
It makes it, you know what it makes me think of? Like, do you remember, like, there's a ton of shows out there, those people that are like scared to leave their houses.
Oh yeah.
You know what I
Like
mean? Could you?
phobia, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like, what's the one show that I won't admit that I watched that show, but like, but yeah, I was thinking about that the other day because I hadn't left my house for like 11 or 12 days, and I had to just go to like a, you know, home Lowe's, which is to get some stuff to do some stuff around the house. And I was like freaked out about it. I'm like, oh my, and I got there and I'm just like completely disoriented, right? Because I'm like literally living in my own world. I don't know if this is a really good thing for me or a bad thing for me, but I was like completely disoriented by it. So I don't know. I wonder if there's going to be some residual issues from that coming out.
Yeah, so I took this super seriously. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think like since we have such an international community of trainers and like many of them are my friends, like when we started hearing about this in a more real way, like a more personal way, I think earlier than others. And it hit the West Coast sooner. And I've got a number of friends out on the West Coast through the leadership program that I'm in. And so I was like, whoa, this is happening. Mm-hmm. And I like did not go anywhere. I did not go to a single store for at least 4 weeks, maybe 5 or 6. And I finally went to the store. But I was freaked out, like for real. Like it was a very stressful experience. And I went to a store at like the time of day that there really weren't many people there. The store had really good distancing measures. Like they weren't letting many people in. And it actually was like when my brain was like, this is very safe. They're doing the right things. Like I'm happy to, like, this is the place I am right now. But like I felt that stress and anxiety.
Yeah. And then you get home and you like hug a wall and you're like, I made it.
Well,
I made it back here.
Someone coughs and you're like,
yeah, what's your problem, man?
What are you doing? Like, why?
Stop it. If that was fake.
We're gonna have like some, like, I don't know, like some residual effects, like socially around. Like, I actually was on a leadership call, I think it was yesterday, and one of the things that came up was around not trusting anymore. And like, I don't trust being out in the world. Like, I don't, like, there's a level of like, I don't trust nature because this is nature. Like nature gave us a nice little like bitch slap here. However you want to look at it. It's nature. Like the pandemic is nature. And also though, like, do you trust the people around? Like the reason I think we're afraid when we go to the grocery store is we're like, did you wash your hands? Did you touch something? Like, where, you know, like there's like a weird, there's a weird psychology happening around it. And I think we'll get through that. I think we'll get over that eventually, but it makes me sad that I feel that, you know.
But it's normal. We had that in our family where I don't know who listens to this, so I won't out them, but we had a particular family member who was deciding that it's still fine that their kids are doing sleepovers, that they're still just doing normal life. There's no social distancing, there's no consideration for any of it. It's like, this is a hoax, this will just be fine. And so we're opposite of that. Like, if people have that viewpoint, great, right? I respect everyone's right to be wrong. And so that's where I'm at with it. But then someone that we care about and we wanted to see interacted with that group and then tried to interact with our group. And then we had to do the calculation of, well, no, this can't happen anymore because we don't trust that this was okay. And it's like this. So who have you been with? Who have you seen? Except we're not talking about, the normal, like the context of those questions would be totally, they were different years ago. Now it's, who did you get within 6 feet of?
Mhm.
Where, and it's been a really bizarre calculation that, it is that trust though, right? It's that real weird, do I trust you to do the right thing so that I won't get hurt? And that's really stressing relationships.
There's also do I trust myself? Because do I trust myself to be vigilant? So one of the things that I'm wearing my mask, I'm all on board with this. But one of the things I don't like about wearing my mask is it makes me have a false sense that I'm being protected. And my brain is like, no, you're doing this to protect other people. You are still at risk. Don't touch anything. Don't touch your face. Like, wash your hands.
Hands in the pockets.
Yeah, so there's a level of even trusting yourself, right? Like, I could be carrying this. I could infect other people. So it's a real weird thing to be with.
You probably can't on camera, but my knuckles are literally red and raw from just the washing. Like, have you noticed that? Like I'm all in on social distancing and hand washing and masks, and like I literally have to use like a cream at night just to like do a little repair so I can wash them the next day. It's wild.
And, so like I wear a mask. Usually 90% of the time I wear a hat. I wear a hat, right? So I was in Lowe's. I swear,
you wear a hat and a mask.
Yeah, well, I was wearing a mask in Lowe's, and I turned, and my head like bumped something, and it like took my mask off. Like I'm like the most awkward person in the world, right?
Yes.
And like I'm like in Lowe's, and my mask like is down, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like freaking out. I'm just like, oh my god, did I get it? Right? Like come home, I'm like, am I giving
it?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm like freaking out. Like, I don't know. So like,
14 days.
What's that?
Has it been 14 days?
Yes.
Oh no,
Actually, no, it's been 6 days.
Can we get it through the Zoom?
A week from now.
What's
I
that?
mean, you're okay. Check in with me a week from now.
Okay,
all right.
I will. Yeah.
I did want to show that
It was just my hat, my hat hitting like a one of those side things.
Yeah.
So I promised a meme, and this is one that my wife actually created. Right?
Whoa.
This is Kristen. She's brilliant. This was done in our house. I put it online, and it went kind of viral, especially on Twitter. I don't know if you can see that picture.
Yeah.
She was so sick of seeing kids put dishes in the sink. It was.
I didn't realize you created that. I thought you were like sharing some internet thing.
Oh, I'll find another one real quick here.
No, I got one.
I saw you shared that, and I love that you actually created it.
Oh, Kristen put the tape across the sink and said, "Put dishes in the dishwasher." It was great.
Ryan, I'm texting you one that I think is appropriate to share.
Okay.
And it circles back to an earlier part of our conversation, the three of us.
Oh my god.
No.
Okay.
So first of all, you guys know that I'm a big Philly sports fan. I live just outside of Philadelphia, right? So this has to do with Tiger King.
All right. So I'll get that loaded up.
Yeah, load that up.
You guys do know they released another episode, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
Just like keep releasing them. Interview anyone. I want to know what they're doing right now.
It's so ridiculous.
Well, okay, so I will show what Todd just sent over. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So if you know that I'm a Philadelphia sports fan, I have Eagles season tickets. So we obviously cannot stand the Dallas Cowboys, right? If you know anything about Philadelphia, there is this angst against the Dallas Cowboys. I don't care who wants to comment on this about talking about all the Cowboys Super Bowl rings. You're wrong.
There will be a lot of comments on this.
Yep, you cheated. They were all on the juice.
Oh, you're going dark, man.
Yeah.
I think he's focused on this area right here.
Yes.
The Dallas Cowboys, and it's a hat, right? Look at that. All right, so that's gonna. Any comments need to go to Todd Miller on any Dallas fans who are upset.
Someone is typing a comment. Uh-oh.
It went up literally 5 seconds ago, and there's already a comment brewing. Good job, Todd.
Oh,
As Ryan says, we can agree that I'm right.
I just respect other people's rights.
I was going to say, I don't think that's what Ryan said.
Well, I tried. Okay. I'm not known for my smoothness.
Potato, right?
Yeah.
We can all just agree that I'm right. That's not exactly what Ryan said, Todd.
Sure. I drank an 8.5% beer, right?
Very good.
Craft brewed
handled it like a champ. How are we doing on time box here?
I'm on my second.
I'm kicked.
So I have a serious question here. Todd, do we have to reload?
I don't know what that means. Oh wait, you're talking
More
about
beers.
Oh my God, I thont you meant like something about live streaming on YouTube. I was like,
No,
what? Reload.
we have to reload and keep this. What do you think?
I'm gonna have to probably say I better not right now, because I think that my wife is carrying groceries.
Oh, so you're gonna spend the next hour and a half disinfecting groceries?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Let's reload.
I have a question. What are some of the super weird things that you're now doing? Like, we all disinfect our groceries, right? And we do take an hour and a half to do it, right?
Yep.
So what are the other weird things you're doing?
I bought a light on Amazon. It's not here yet, but it's a light that disinfects. And so you put it into a lamp. You cannot be present when the light is on because it will hurt you. It'll burn your eyes. It'll burn your skin. But you put it in a room, you turn it on, and anything the light touches within 10 minutes is completely disinfected. No viruses, no bacteria.
Did you buy this on an infomercial?
No, it's off of Amazon. It's the same light bulb. So
he found it a great deal on QVC.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of silly, but it's actually the same bulbs they use in hospital labs to disinfect areas. So it's not here yet, but when it gets here, we will be zapping the hell out of anything that comes in the house.
Wow.
To get stuff off of it. Yep.
Yeah.
Who has a quarantine zone for their Amazon packages?
Yep. I actually wipe down the packages and then they sit in the quarantine zone for 48 hours. And then I open the package and then I disinfect the inside of it. And then it might sit for another day or two in the quarantine zone. Like, that's how ridiculous I am about it.
You get like super excited. You're just like, okay, I only have one more hour. I get to use this thing. Right.
Who's making like really just bizarre Amazon purchases?
So I've had to buy some chemicals because
Tell us more.
I did not panic buy anything, and I don't keep things like hand sanitizer and Lysol wipes around. Like, I just don't. And so I had to make my own. And so, like, when you were talking about your hands being like really like dry and red, I have this picture. I'll send it to you, Ryan. My hand like literally was like deteriorating. It looked like zombie flesh. Like, it had like these white spots on it. And I think it's because of like the chemicals I've been like making my own hand sanitizer and my own wipes out of. But yeah, I've ordered some interesting chemicals that like I didn't know what they were before. And I was like Googling, I'm like, okay.
So Stephanie's like, so COVID cannot live on my hand, but neither can flesh.
I put like a moisturizer and it went away. So I think we're good.
Very good. Very good. Todd, anything weird showing up at your house?
I mean, it's just normal weird for me. I mean, I don't think really anything that weird, to be honest with you. I mean, probably to the normal like human being, it would be weird, but.
You know what I did the other day?
What'd you do?
I traded vodka for a cilantro plant.
That's
what did
pretty
you
awesome.
what did you get?
I got the cilantro plant. I happen to have vodka. I'm not much of a liquor drinker. I tend to stick with my IPAs and my red wine.
Yep.
But like I actually, so this is actually also ridiculous. I just realized I had to go to the liquor store because I ran out of rubbing alcohol and you can't buy it anywhere to make my own my hand sanitizer. And so I had to buy like the generic version of Everclear. I had to buy grain alcohol to make more hand sanitizer. And I was like, well, while I'm here, I'm picking up some vodka. Like real vodka.
And then were you just like driving around being like, hey, anybody want to trade this vodka for some cilantro plant?
My neighbor, actually.
Oh,
like,
okay.
she's like going to Lowe's to get some, she's like a gardener. Like she doesn't kill things. I kill everything. And I was like, well, you know what? Like, get me a cilantro plant. Like, I'll probably kill it. And she's like, can I have some vodka? It's like, oh, it's a deal. Like, you ran out of vodka, I'll give you enough for drinks for the weekend, and you just get me a cilantro plant. We're good.
I just pictured this like, we'll trade vodka for cilantro plant. Like,
it seems like a weird trade, but I don't know. Emma, do you think that's a good trade? No, Emma agrees.
My friends disagreed. My friends thought that as well, but you know what? I love my guacamole.
I love guacamole too.
I drink more beer than vodka, and I got like 8 million bottles of red wine.
I think you're set.
I think I'm set.
This is my little nap buddy. She's looking for me. It's like, why did you wake up, Dad? Did we take a good nap? Well, I think that's probably a sign that our time box is hit when kids are sneaking into the room. So, Stephanie, we appreciate you doing this. We thoroughly enjoyed it. You got to come back and have another beer with us.
Anytime.
Yeah. Next time we should probably have two. Let's see what happens then.
That would get wild. So
I do have like 10,000 more questions now that we actually started, so we should do it again.
We definitely will. And so we'll get a bunch of links to your stuff in the notes. We'll make sure people can check out the coaching and the classes and the training and all the great stuff that Stephanie's into. We'll get a link to the blog. Maybe that'll get you to maybe reminisce about a trip and write another post. We'll see. No, thank you. You're probably right. But yeah, otherwise, Stephanie, thanks for joining us. I hope the beers were good. Good taste. Amazing. Todd, Trillium.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Trillium. Yep, it's totally worth a duffel bag worth of it.
Well, cool. That's another episode of Craft Brewed Agile. We hope everyone enjoyed it. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you're thinking. Tell them, Emma. Leave us feedback. Yeah. Thank you, baby. All right, leave us feedback. We'll see how what you like, what you don't. We'll inspect and adapt. And until next time, be safe.